Everyone, it's me, Donna. I'm remaking this video because I don't like how the first one turned out, especially after I downloaded it, or excuse me, I uploaded it to YouTube and then I looked at the. I don't like this. So I'm redoing the video. Um, but anyway, this video is about what are, because all across the country there's new mayor races that are fixing to be going on over the next few years. Um, and my town is is one of those towns. Okay, my question to these mayors is, what are they going to do for our towns? Um, because in my town, in particular, in Russellville, Alabama, there's not much been done. Like, now don't get me wrong, back in the 80s and 90s, things were kind of booming a little bit. We had sewing plants. We had like, I don't know, three or more sewing plants. But between Russellville and Phil Campbell and a few other towns in Franklin County, Haleville and all that, we had sewing plants. Okay. But after the Clintons signed that NAFTA agreement that everyone thought was a good idea, me included, uh, all these good jobs that we didn't realize were good jobs at the time, uh, either went out of business or went south of the border or went overseas. And eventually, a bunch of those that went south of the border went overseas later on because the goal is to look for cheaper and cheaper labor. And that's sad. It's a sad fact, but it's true. And that's the modern business model of these corporations now. But what they're not understanding is they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot because eventually the countries that they're moving all their businesses to, there's always going to be something that's going to come up. Either you're going to have conflict or you're going to have labor disputes because eventually people will get sick of working for crap, and then they'll get backing, and then eventually your workers will rise against you, and you'll have to go somewhere if you want to stay in business. uh, so my hope is that a lot of these companies will come back to America that went overseas, or uh, we just start over basically and get start from the ground up and create new businesses. But that's a whole different thing. My issue concerning the mayors is, to the if the current mayor gets it again, and he's had a few turns, um, if he does get reelected this time, what is he going to do different that he hasn't been doing? Because I do not see any new good jobs come in this area. Now, don't get me wrong, we've gotten a few, you know, fast food restaurants and stuff over the last 15 or so years. uh, and we've gotten gas stations and just a few what I would call rinky-dink things, even though they're important, and they're jobs, and a lot of us work at these places. And you know but the thing is, they each one doesn't employ that many people. I mean, collectively, you get a certain amount of people, but by themselves, they don't. Um, so, my question is, are you going to make more of an effort? Are these mayors going to make more of an effort to bring in jobs? Like, I'm sick of the mudslinging that some of them will do. They'll get a crowd of people and then they'll say, yeah, my opponent, I think he's into, dirty dealings, and he owns this business and that business and this property and that, and I think he's in, okay, well, if that's the case, then yeah, do your part or whatever. If he's doing something wrong, um, you know, get the authorities involved and take care of it. Otherwise, what are you going to do for this town? Instead of mudslinging and deflecting, what are you going to do for this town? What are our elected officials going to do? And city councils, what are they going to do to help the economic growth of this town? Because that's the number one issue with me. Uh, that's the most important thing, in my opinion, is getting jobs here, getting good jobs, decent jobs with decent pay, not jobs that want to overwork you and fire you if you don't want to work over all the time and not pay you that well. They pay you just enough, so that they can say that they pay well, but they don't. They really don't. Um, in this economy, sadly, $10 an hour is not considered good pay. Um, it's what a lot of people get. Your average lower class worker, that's what they're making, but it's not considered good. It's not keeping up with groceries and all that stuff. Okay, so what are these people going to do to bring the jobs that do pay more, like $12 or more an hour? To me, I think the base should be 14 or 15, considering what's going on right now with inflation and all that. I think 14 or $15 should be considered what I would say would be minimum wage, regardless of what the federal minimum wage is, and that needs to change too. But that's a whole different soapbox. Um, but you know, that's what needs to be brought in here. Uh, and I think that there are sewing plants that could uh, do just fine, giving people that kind of pay and putting out a pretty good product to where people will want to buy it. Um, so, you know, why aren't we getting that? Why aren't we getting, you know, maybe frozen food manufacturers? Because, you always hear about the food deliveries where they're delivering, fresh uh, foods from food production companies. Well, you know, why not bring some of those manufacturers here, or even just frozen foods that you buy off the shelves at the grocery store? Why aren't we getting those types of jobs? Why aren't we getting maybe a candy manufacturer or a toy manufacturer, or something like that? What's going to be done about recreation? Because let's face it, this town, the town I live in, we don't have much of that. We have a few parks, but they're rinky dink and they don't offer much. And they get crowded really fast. I've seen it happen. By the time you pull up, then 10 dozen other people pull up, and then, I don't like that. I just don't like really crowded places, especially when I'm going somewhere to relax. I don't really want to be right up listening to other people's conversations or having them listening to mine. Like, even, not on purpose, but it happens. I just kind of want a little bit of distance and space. So I would like recreation areas that allow that. Maybe more walking trails and things like that. Uh, a nice big botanical garden. I mean, Russellville could get that. Huntsville's got that, and a few other places in Alabama have those. Why can't Russellville have that? I mean, we've got plenty of forest area. Uh, could get the right person in here and whip that right on up. Why don't we have that? And there's one park at Sloss Lake, which I haven't been there in a long time, but supposedly they put a splash pad there and they bragged about how big it was and all that. But from what I've seen in images and stuff, it doesn't look that big. But I digress. But I just feel like maybe more needs to be done in that area as well. But I would like to see more done downtown where a lot of people live. Um, more things added there. Why can't we get an art museum or some antique museum, or there's different things that I feel like could be done recreation wise. How come the mayors are not doing enough to get that? And also, doesn't this area have have industrial recruiters? Uh, what are they doing? They're getting paid. How come they're not bringing stuff here? You know, why aren't we seeing results? Why are we seeing more focus being done to build sidewalks downtown than actual effort to bring in jobs? Good jobs. Uh, that's my question. And what is any future mayor going to do about that? You know, so and the population, it's really exploded. It's on record. This area in Russellville, it claims that it's 10,000, but of course it's more than that. It's like 20,000 or more. So what are we going to do about that? And a lot of it is immigrants, both legal and illegal, and mostly illegal. Let's be real here. And I don't want to debate with anyone about that, but that's the facts. And I know that we got some liberals out there that want to argue differently and whatever. I don't want to argue with you because it's just going to be a bunch of nonsense back and forth. And then you're going to start slinging stuff that doesn't even have anything to do with the conversation in order to try to get back at me. Don't want to hear it. So if you're going to troll like that, stay away from my channel. I don't got time for you, and I will block you. So yeah. But anyway, so what's going to be done about all this? How are things going to be made to improve this area before it either becomes a ghost town or a big old drug cartel? Because let's face it, if you've got a whole bunch of people and you don't have hardly any jobs, and these people are coming in from God knows where, and nobody knows who half of them are, or shall I say 75% of them, nobody knows who they really are. And so they can bring in all kinds of drugs, and they've got their connections in these other countries and stuff. What do you think's going to happen? I mean, if they're not working regular jobs, if nobody is really, or not many, what do you think the main business is going to be? As long as there's a market for it, what do you think's going to happen? And that's the sad thing. And I don't want to see that happen to this town. Whether I live here for the rest of my life or I move off somewhere else, I still would like to see good things for this town. No matter where I live, I would love to see good things happen. And I'm just tired of the same old mess. I'm tired of mayors just sitting on their rear end. And that's what's happened in this town for a long time. They're focused on other things. They're more focused on their own properties, their own businesses, and their buddies' businesses that are small, that only benefit certain people, that do not benefit the mass. Okay, I want that type of thought to stop. I want an actual effort. I want to see results for this town. So, that's my feelings on it. And I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who feel the same. If you do, drop me a comment. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. Uh, so anyway, that's just my little soapbox for the day, and my thought on the situation, because it's been on my mind and everything. So anyway, we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.